Hey everybody, and welcome to a short video that we are putting together around the difference between prevention and EDR. Prevention, by nature, is designed to keep things out of your environment. It's designed to act before anything has a chance of getting on your machine or executing if it is malicious. EDR is designed to notify you when something suspicious is in your environment and provide you steps on how you can then go and fix it. So, what's the major difference between these two? Well, one's giving you homework while like you're still in college. The other is preventing things and making your life a little bit easier. You have less alert fatigue, you have less man hours being spent chasing things down. There's less validation that you actually have to do because it's being prevented. Whereas with EDR, you're being told this is in your environment, but there's no way for it to successfully stop the actions that are occurring until you go and take an action. So we want to give you guys kind of an example of what you would see with EDR. You guys have seen prevention. We're going to show prevention in here as well, but we want to show you kind of an example of what you would see with EDR. So here's an example EDR report that we kind of created. We looked at a bunch of different EDRs from a bunch of different vendors that are out there. We pulled different bits and pieces from different reports that we've looked at to kind of give you an idea of what you would be seeing. The major thing that you're going to see is a name is going to be up at the top and say it's an EDR report, or it's going to say your incident report, or however they want to word it. It's going to tell you in not so many words, sometimes a lot of words, but the good ones are not so many words, that an incident occurred on an endpoint. Please review the information provided to understand what occurred and steps to remediate the issue. There's that homework thing. Right there, it's telling you that you're going to have to be involved in this process manually. Then you have the host name of the machine. We blurred ours out, obviously. That's to, protect the person in question. It was me. Severity, critical. This could be anything. You could have reporting set up to where it's coming in with low, medium, high, critical, urgent, end of the world, sky is falling. I mean, it just depends on how they have the classification set. Then you get the how to remediate steps. So in this case, our user, I'm a hacker, had a file that was pulled down to their temp directory as part of a download, and it was a JavaScript file. JavaScript files are not inherently malicious. A JavaScript file could have content in it which is malicious, but will not become malicious until interacted with by another program, such as WScript, such as CScript, as you see below. So what happened? In this instance, the JavaScript attempted to run a PowerShell command, which pulled from a website, which we have obfuscated, which invoked an expression and tried to pull down additional malicious content. So you can see right there, WScript was the executable, and it was pulling PowerShell. It was leveraging PowerShell. That's the Windows scripting host pulling PowerShell and trying to go and download additional content from this from the invoked expression in here. Now we can tell you a little bit more about what this was, but the important thing to know is this was actually prevented. So days before this was actually sent out, and this is another thing that we run into with EDR. It takes days for these reports to generally make their way out to you as the MSP. It was already prevented. Here's the prevention right here. Behavioral analysis, very high. There's everything right there. Obviously, this part was obfuscated out because we don't want anybody going to the website in question. PowerShell interactive. Here's the MITRE down here, execution, command scripting interpreter, PowerShell. Yes, this is malicious. Yes, I detonated it in my environment. It is prevented for good reason. Okay, so we talked before about objects which are not necessarily malicious versus those that are malicious. Time for a little bit of show and tell, shall we? We're going to go over here and we're going to go into our virtual machine that we have. Now, part of this is going to be released in a new write-up that we have coming out as well. But this showcases why detection and response and prevention are two different things completely. So we're going to come over here to the server where I have a couple files waiting. Okay. First, we have Rip Van Oni. This is an object which, when run, is designed to go through and create a reverse TCP shell to allow somebody access to your machine. It's a batch file. Okay. So, rightfully so, when this is downloaded, you can see there is nothing, there's no prevention. It's not designed to prevent it. It's a batch file. It's not malicious. Let's open up the Notepad++. There you go. There's everything that's happening. Echo off, so it's not going to repeat anything that's run in the shell itself, in the command prompt. There's if the processor architecture is x86. So that basically takes care of pretty much every Intel and AMD processor that has been released within the last God knows how many years are technically going to be vulnerable to this. You have a base 64 string. There's the base 64 string right here all the way down to this. I can deobfuscate that string if I really wanted to and show you guys. But for the sake of what we're doing here, no need. So this is a batch file. It's not malicious inherently until something interacts with it. So what do? Well, we interact with it. This is going to spawn PowerShell. PowerShell is then going to actually run this. So command calls PowerShell. PowerShell calls the commands. It tries to deobfuscate the base 64 strings. Run. Command processor. Oops. Can't run. Malicious PowerShell command execution shut it down with the BA module. That's on as part of your main service. So that's the difference. This prevents it. You don't have any homework. It's done. There it is. Completely done. Now you'll notice this file remains because it's not malicious, but anytime it's interacted with, it's not going to actually be able to run anything. Now you can go into your appliance and you can remotely delete the file, or the administrators of the MSP can go in and they can look at these items. We can, you can look at the reports that we send. It'll have these files outlined as objects which attempted to run. You can validate they are gone from the environment, but they're not malicious inherently until something interacts with them. Once it runs, it's prevented. This batch file, somebody said, was fully undetectable by any security solution. Obviously not. We shut it down. Our security stack handled it. If you have any questions, by all means, please reach out to us. We welcome conversation. We love to talk about this stuff. I nerd out over this stuff.